Today on Personal Injury Court.
You're kind of haunted by this every waking moment.
Yes, Your Honor.
My daughter was standing up, observing me. Mr. Ward comes barreling down.
I didn't run over anybody, okay? I just nicked her and she fell.
He initially hit me on my left leg, which shattered my kneecap, tore my ACL.
You're asking this court for $550,000.
I have a pre-existing condition.
Spondylolisthesis.
Is that even a thing?
One thing that we don't do in this courtroom is to belittle someone else's reality.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Judge Gino Brogdon spent 10 years on the bench ruling on cases worth billions of dollars. Now he presides over some of the largest claims in TV history. This is Personal Injury Court.
Good day, everyone. This is the matter of Donahue versus Ward. From the documents you filed with this court, Ms. Donahue, you are here with your father, but you're suing Mr. Ward for injuries that you received in a golf cart accident. You're asking this court to award you $25,000 for past medicals, $30,000 for future medicals, $500,000 for pain and suffering, for a total award of $555,000. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
And Mr. Ward, you believe you were not wrong. You didn't do anything wrong here. You did your best, and she's responsible for her own injuries. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
Well, let's get into the legal sauce. Now, father and daughter golfing, how does that happen?
Well, Your Honor, I've been a golfer all my life. I really enjoy the game. It's one of my favorite pastimes. All growing up, I tried to get Lindsay to come with me on the golf course, but it just wasn't what she wanted to do on her Saturdays or Fridays. So I was really shocked and surprised when she came to me recently and said, "Daddy, I'd like to have you teach me how to play golf." I mean, this was a thrill. So I planned the whole day. We got some tee times down. We had breakfast. We were planning a lunch. And this was a really special day for Lindsay and I.
So what did it mean to you, Miss Lindsay?
Well, I just recently graduated college, Your Honor, and I got a wonderful opportunity to work with this insurance company. And I know many of the offers and deals are made on the golf course, and I didn't want to be left out because I didn't know how to play, or heaven forbid, because I'm a woman. So I thought, why not have one of the best teachers, my dad, teach me how to play golf? So I took up that opportunity.
That is beautiful, and I should have had girls, I'm telling you. Mr. Ward, you're also a golfer?
Yes.
How long you been golfing?
Oh, it's been at least 25, 30 years. I own my own sanitation company. I'm kind of a self-made man, and I like to play golf. I try to go a couple times a week, maybe 3. I like to make deals on the golf course.
3 times a week, huh?
Yeah.
Well,
yes.
3 is a special number for me because that's how many times I've been golfing in my whole life. So how did this happen?
Well, Your Honor, we were on the 11th hole, and I've never, ever played before, so I was trying to get every aspect, every angle that I could.
Yes, ma'am.
And as that was happening, as I was watching my dad, the next thing I know, Mr. Ward comes over the hill with his weighted down golf cart, smacks me in my left leg and breaks my kneecap, and it tosses me into the sand pit where I tear my ACL and slip 3 discs.
So Mr. Ward ran you over with his golf cart and knocked you into the sand trap?
Yes, Your Honor.
Correct.
I didn't run over anybody, okay? And I was concerned when I found out what happened. I just nicked her and she fell. I mean, bottom line is it wasn't my fault.
So, Mr. Donahue, Mrs. Donahue, you all submitted an exhibit to this court that lays out the course. I want to put that up on the plasma screen and you take me through it as to exactly how this happened. Can we do that?
Absolutely, Your Honor.
All right, if you'll cross over, sir.
Sure. That's me here with my putter. My daughter was standing up observing me putt because we were working on her short game. Now I'm lining up my putt, so I'm looking down when all of a sudden I hear my daughter yell, and I look up and I don't see my daughter, but I see Mr. Ward going screaming by on the golf cart. I run over and I see my daughter. She's in the sand trap, holding her knee, writhing in pain, and then Mr. Ward is just nowhere to be seen.
Thank you, sir. You may return to the podium.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Now, Mr. Ward, in legal cases, people always say there are 2 sides to every story. So what is your side?
Well, my side is that I think it comes down to golf etiquette. Now, there's rules on every golf course, that are posted, and then there's some rules that are just common sense.
Okay.
I've got a list of the rules right here I'd like to present to the court if I could.
Okay, Sheriff Mack, will you get that list?
They broke every rule. They were too loud. Every time one of them made a good shot, I heard giggling, and I think that was Mr. Donahue.
But wait a minute.
My daughter was excited.
Hold on. If giggling is against the rules, I don't think I want to go to that court.
Well, it's
Exactly.
a private club.
Especially if you're out there with your dad. I mean,
Well,
aren't you
I
supposed to have fun?
understand that, but I mean, they went beyond. I mean, giggling, yelling.
When I got excited, yes, I giggled because I finally got the movement of it right, but I wasn't overly loud or talking loud or being distracting.
Well,
in
let's
any
look at
way.
these rules. It says club rules. The first is play at a reasonable pace.
That was one that they never got
How did
right.
they break that rule?
They were playing at a turtle's pace. I mean, there was a line of golfers behind me even.
So they
waiting
had
to
it
get-
backed up.
Yeah.
If she's a beginner, though, isn't that kind of expected? I mean, it looked like a highway when I was playing.
Yeah, well,
with the
but
people
I mean,
behind me.
That's why you don't, teach the major portion of it on the course. You do it at the driving
Your Honor,
range,
they were the only
putting
ones
green.
behind it. There was nobody else behind us because
No.
they were the only ones behind us.
No, there was a bunch of
I don't know
people.
how you
We'll
get
figure that
experience.
out. So the second one is repair ball marks and replace divots. So they were tearing this golf course up.
Exactly.
Most of those divots are not mine.
She covered. I told her about the divots and I put it back.
Your
yeah.
Honor, this is the first time I've ever seen somebody make a divot with a putter.
No, that.
Yeah, they made two of them.
Coming up,
So you had a golf bag.
Yeah, right about here.
Here.
There you go. There's water, as you see on this side. There's a sand trap on this side.
And you're
Right.
not going in the water.
And there was room there for a cart to go around. All she had to do was step out of the way, which I thought she did.
This court has consulted a 23-year veteran of the PGA Tour and the 2009 winner of the British Open, Stuart Sink. We've been talking about something called golf course etiquette. What is that?
Mr. Ward comes over the hill with his weighted down golf cart, smacks me in my left leg and breaks my kneecap, and it tosses me into the sand pit where I tear my ACL and slip 3 discs.
Bottom line is it wasn't my fault. Now, there's rules on every golf course. I've got a list of the rules right here.
So it goes on to say, do not distract other players.
See?
Place bags and carts between green and next tee.
And
Did they do that?
No, and that was the main problem. They had clubs, their bags, I think some food.
No,
no
Your
food
Honor,
or
no,
bags,
no,
Your
there
Honor.
was not.
Can I go up to the monitor here?
Please, because I want to make sure I know where these bags and things are.
The golf bag was right here. I mean, it was almost like a roadblock there.
So you had a golf bag.
Right about here.
Here.
There you go.
Okay, so you got a golf bag there, and they had other stuff that kind of was around,
Exactly, yeah.
and you're trying to get over here.
Right. There's water, as you see on this side. There's a sand trap on this side.
So you really have to go either this way or that way.
That's
and you're
right.
not going in the water.
I wasn't going in the water. So I go this way, and there was room there for a cart to go around. All she had to do was step out of the way, which I thought she did.
So you may return to the podium. When you come over the hill, are you screaming anything? Are you saying anything?
You know, they knew I was coming around that way. I mean, I didn't think I had to scream or anything like that. And when she fell in, I thought that she had just slipped and fallen in, so I didn't say much. And I'm like, hey, you're going to need a wedge to get out of there, which sounds bad now, but I didn't know she.
Yeah, that was
How did you not know you
kind
hit
of
me?
ill-timed humor, wasn't it? She got hurt.
I didn't know. I was golfing with my buddy Joey. He says, hey, we better
No,
stop.
he was
I think there's a
obnoxious the
big-
whole time, Your Honor. He was
ignoring.
screaming at us.
Now, Mr. Ward, I don't think I can completely let you off the hook because I drive a golf cart when I go fishing at a lake, right? I'm riding around. It seems when you take your foot off the gas, that thing almost stops, doesn't it?
Yeah, well, if you look, this was a hilly golf course, and this is the 11th hole right there. I was coming down, I had momentum. I'm a big guy, the guys I were with were big guys, so, you know, it wasn't gonna stop easy.
You had brakes. You could have stopped. You could have said something. You could have
Said
asked me to
something.
move.
Excuse
you could have
us.
told me
Talk
to
to
move.
me.
If there
Move your
was
bag.
stuff there, you could have told me to
Talk
move
to
it.
me, folks.
Yeah, they knew I was coming through, Your Honor. I mean, they're the ones that told me to do it.
next.
When Mr. Ward hit me, he shattered my kneecap, tore my ACL, and I slipped 3 discs in my back. The vertebrae slips out of place and it crushes my nerves and causes extensive pain.
This wouldn't have happened if they'd followed golf etiquette.
To further understand golf etiquette, this court has consulted a 23-year veteran of the PGA Tour, Stuart Sink.
Part of me agrees with what Mr. Ward is saying. Respect your fellow players, and that means keep up and keep your stuff kind of in a neat little place.
My daughter was standing up observing me. I hear my daughter yell, and the golf cart barreling down the path here. I run over and I see my daughter. She's in the sand trap, holding her knee, writhing in pain.
Ms. Donahue, you have submitted $25,000 in past medical bills for your injuries. I want to understand your injuries. Will you explain that to me?
Yes, Your Honor. When Mr. Ward hit me, he initially hit me on my left leg, which shattered my kneecap. And then when I fell into the sand trap, as I fell, I twisted and it tore my ACL. And as you can see, I had to get extensive surgery. And then when I fell into the sand trap, I slipped 3 discs in my back.
You submitted this MRI of your back?
Yes, Your Honor. That is from a pre-existing condition. Sometimes the vertebrae slips out of place and it crushes my nerves, but I didn't have any trouble beforehand. I was standing up perfectly fine. I was dancing, I was hiking, but once the accident happened, it triggered it, and I cannot.
It aggravated your pre-existing condition of spondylolisthesis.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, and you're kind of haunted by this every waking moment.
Yes, Your Honor.
Is that even a thing?
Really?
Is what a thing? Her pre-existing. It's a medical condition that you affected when you hit her with your golf cart. One thing that we don't do in this courtroom is to belittle someone else's reality.
Thank you, Your Honor.
You may not agree with it, but in my courtroom, you can't disrespect it. So you're asking this court for $500,000 for pain and suffering. That's a lot of money. That's not just a blown out knee.
I used to dance and I used to go hiking and I used to be able to go to my job, and I can't do that. I can't even live in my own apartment that I had because I can't even go up the stairs. I have to live at home.
She had to move back in with my wife and I, Your Honor.
Oh, she had to move back home because of it?
Yes, because of this injury that Mr. Ward caused. And it's just frustrating to see my young, vibrant daughter all of a sudden, have this pain and this inability to move and work on her own, live on her own. It's very frustrating, as you must know.
The worst injury to any parent is an injury to our children.
Exactly.
There's no doubt about that. Mr. Ward, you see that this has changed this young lady's life.
Yeah, I do see it, and I feel bad about that. But I also hear her say it's a pre-existing condition.
But it wasn't bothering me beforehand.
You hit somebody on the golf course. I need to see you with a little bit of heart.
Well, I've got an adult daughter, too, and I know.
You're a dad, too.
Yeah, and this wouldn't have happened if they'd followed golf etiquette.
To further understand golf etiquette and how it applies to this case, this court has consulted a 23-year veteran of the PGA Tour and the 2009 winner of the British Open, Stuart Sink. Sheriff Matt, will you get Mr. Sink?
Yes, Your Honor.
Good day, Mr. Sink.
Good day, Your Honor.
It is a privilege to have you here today. We've been talking about something called golf course etiquette. What is that?
Golf is founded on respect your fellow competitor and respect the course and respect the rules of the game. The group behind you, just keep up. And you try to leave the course how you found it, and it's just a respect thing.
In this case, Mr. Ward's in the golf cart, and he's coming down the path.
Yes.
What is he supposed to be thinking and looking out for as he's driving the golf cart?
Well, I think the number one thing you would probably wanting to be aware of is what is in your immediate path.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I mean, it's common sense.
It was their stuff. Their stuff was in my immediate
No,
path.
they weren't.
Okay, well, let's take that. Now, there's a golf bag full of clubs, partly in the path, and other stuff strewn around. What's he supposed to do as the driver of the golf cart?
If you're going so fast that you can't see that there's something in the way, you can't slow down, then you probably shouldn't be going that fast.
Well, tell me,
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
if you're an experienced golfer and you've got people ahead of you that are tearing up the course, they're taking too much time, they got their stuff everywhere.
They're loud.
What are you supposed to do?
That can be very frustrating, and I've been there too. Part of me agrees with what Mr. Ward is saying, but there's a way to address it. You know, it is part of the game that you're supposed to respect your fellow players, and that means keep up and keep your stuff kind of in a neat little place. And it's so I can see both sides here.
Mr. Singh, thank you so much. You've really helped me in this case. Folks, I think I've heard what I need to hear, and I'm ready to render my decision.
The verdict is in.
You and your dad went out to have a great father-daughter day on the golf course. All of a sudden, Mr. Ward comes out of nowhere. You turn around, no time to get out the way. He strikes you and knocks you into the sand trap and changes your life forever. Mr. Ward, you've put up evidence that these folks simply did not honor the etiquette and the rules of the golf course. And so Miss Donahue is responsible for her own injuries, according to you.
When Mr. Ward hit me, he initially hit me on my left leg, which shattered my kneecap. And then when I fell into the sand trap, as I fell, I twisted and it tore my ACL. And
This wouldn't have happened if they'd followed golf etiquette. Bottom line is it wasn't my fault.
In every personal injury case, the plaintiff has the burden to prove three things. You, Miss Donahue, have to prove that Mr. Ward was wrong. That's the first thing. The second thing is you have to prove Mr. Ward's wrong caused your injuries. You have to offer no further proof of your injuries. They are undisputed. You and your dad went out to have a great father-daughter day on the golf course. You all expected to go at a pretty leisurely pace. You're having fun, you're at the 11th hole. All of a sudden, Mr. Ward comes out of nowhere. You turn around, no time to get out the way. He strikes you and knocks you into the sand trap and changes your life for a long time, maybe forever. And you want him to be held responsible today. Mr. Ward, you've put up evidence that these folks simply did not honor the etiquette and the rules of the golf course. One, they were going too slow. They were being obnoxious. They put their stuff all over the course, and they did not get out of the way when they had a chance to. And so Miss Donahue is responsible for her own injuries, according to you. This case and these facts raise two principles of law. The first principle is voluntary undertaking. Under the law, if you undertake a task, the law says you shall do so non-negligently. That is, you shall act reasonably when you do the task that you have undertaken. Here, you have undertaken the task of driving around the debris and the golf bag and other things that were in the cart path. The second legal principle is the duty to keep a proper lookout. It not only applies to motor vehicles, but it applies to golf carts. If you're driving a golf cart, you have a duty to keep a lookout for hazard ahead and dangers to other people. Here, I find that you have proven that Mr. Ward not only did not take the task and do it non-negligently, and that's why he made contact with you. He also failed to keep a proper lookout. Otherwise, he would have stopped. And because you have proven that he's wrong and that his wrong caused your harm, I find in your favor, and I'm going to award you $25,000 for your past medicals, $30,000 for your future medicals, $500,000 for pain and suffering, for a total award of $555,000. That is my final verdict, and this matter is adjourned.
Personal Injury Court.
Good day, everyone. This is the matter of Morton versus Abernathy. It's my understanding, Mr. and Mrs. Morton, that you are suing Mr. Abernathy for rattlesnake bites to your hand from property that you recently purchased from him. You're asking this court for a total award of $330,000, and that includes $65,000 for medical expenses, $250,000 for pain and suffering, and $15,000 for snake removal because there are still snakes on your property. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
And this is a video of the snakes on your property?
Yes, it is.
Now, Mr. Abernathy, you don't believe this is your fault because you said you didn't know that there were snakes on their property.
Yes, Your Honor.
So this is as big of a surprise to you as it is to them.
I had no idea.
Well, let's get into the legal sauce. Now, tell me how you all chose to buy this property.
Well, me and my wife, Kim, had been discussing having more children. We already have one 4-year-old. We found a beautiful house owned by the defendant.
What was special about this property?
From a woman's point of view.
That's what I wanted to hear.
Yes. Look at it. It's so perfect.
It
Have
is
the
beautiful.
perfect view. It's huge. I do want, 2, 3 more kids.
Okay.
And this was perfect. It has space for a pool, a huge front and backyard. I mean, it's 2 acres. It's beautiful. It's perfect.
Now, Mr. Abernathy, how did you come to even have this property?
Well, my family has had 5 acres of desert land all my life.
Okay.
And I needed some extra cash. So I took 2 acres of the land and I built this house on it. I agree. It's a beautiful house. It's perfect for a growing family. And I sold it to these folks.
So you're happy to sell them the property?
Absolutely.
What happened to the other property?
The other property I've kept for myself.
All right, so you all buy the house, right? And then what happens?
Well, a couple of weeks after we bought the house, my daughter, she's getting into soccer. She's 4. We went outside just to practice and play around, kick the ball around. And it rolled off. We're in the desert. You can see we have a lot of brush on our property.
Sure.
And the ball just, it got into some brush far away from me. I had to go chase it down. I didn't want her to go chase it.
Okay.
Well, I came over to the bush and I started reaching inside of it. I wasn't sure what it was right away.
Okay.
But I felt something just sink into my hand. I jumped back and I looked down at it and I could see there was a snake in the bush. I felt those fangs sink into my hand.
Your Honor.
Yes, sir.
Snakes don't just bite people unprovoked.
Okay.
I mean, he would have had to have been messing with
Now that snake looks like it bites. Now, is this the
Someone's
kind of
out there
snake that bit
provoking
you?
it, probably.
Yes, Your Honor, it was a rattlesnake.
And you know what? They bought a house in a desert. There are going to
Okay.
be snakes there.
So
You're not
just
going to have
forget
polar
about the
bears in
balls?
the desert.
And so,
Yeah.
so being out in the desert, you owned this property. Did you ever see snakes out there before you sold them this property?
Not on this property, Your Honor.
Oh, you're
I
lying.
don't want to blame the victim, but it's definitely his fault if he got bit by
Well, let me understand this. You're out there with your daughter.
Yes.
You all are kicking the ball around. The ball goes into the bushes. You reach for the ball, and then what happens?
I didn't realize it was a snake at first, but looking back on it, that I felt those fangs sink into my hand, and it was just so painful. Immediately, I felt like I could feel a really terrible burning sensation that just started migrating all through my arm.
I could hear him screaming.
So
I
that's
was
how you knew
inside
something
the
was
house.
wrong?
Yes. I was inside the house and I could hear him screaming, the kind of scream that you just know something is bad.
My mom would say those are mommy's ears.
Oh, and yes, I knew my daughter was outside too.
Yes, she
So
was.
I ran outside and I see my daughter just paralyzed, staring at Daddy, and Daddy is bleeding.
So your
Your
little
Honor.
girl saw this.
Yes.
I was terrified for her to see that. There
No
was blood
kid
everywhere.
should have to watch that. No kid should have to be in
Mr.
those
Abernathy,
circumstances.
How is this my problem? I didn't know there were snakes on that land when I sold it to them.
Mr. Abernathy, hold on for a minute.
Okay.
Now, you realize that he had a terrible snake bite, right?
I'm sorry.
With
got
his
that.
little girl watching. Now, you didn't know that there were snakes on his property, right?
Correct, Your Honor.
Now, what was your idea of the property before you sold it in terms of whether snakes were on there?
I didn't know there were snakes on the property.
So, Mr. Abernathy, this is not your fault.
No, Your Honor. I did not know there were snakes on the property. They purchased the land. It's their land.
Did it surprise you that there were snakes on their property? You did say it was the desert.
It is the desert. Yeah, I've never seen snakes on that land. All the time during the construction, never saw one.
Now, you kept part of this property, right?
I did.
How about your property that you kept? Were there snakes on that property?
Can I show you?
Sure. All right, so which one is your property?
So this property is mine over here, 14. That's the 3 acres I kept.
Okay.
Number 13 is the property that I built the house on and sold to the Mortons.
The house that was shown in that photograph?
Yes,
Okay.
Your Honor. So I will say that I have seen snake activity on these 3 acres in the
Okay.
past.
So he knew.
Now those are drawn like it's a bunch of snakes. Why that?
They're actually snake nests that are on this property. But, Your Honor, that's why I kept this property on my own. I sold them the property that had no snakes on it.
Your Honor, if he knew that there were snakes on this property, you should have had our property inspected.
The Mortons purchased this land fair and square. We had a contract. There could be snakes on any of that land.
Exactly.
It's
So you're
not
saying
my
that you
problem.
Now,
Mr. Abernathy,
For every snake in the world?
Mr. Abernathy, I saw the video. That's a lot of snakes. Look at that.
Yes, Your Honor, and I fully disclosed everything I knew about both the house and the property.
You said you knew there were snakes. You didn't tell us that there were snakes.
I did not know that there were snakes.
You knew there were snakes on your other 3 acres.
Order in this court.
Sorry.
Address your comments to me.
Snakes don't know where the line is. He knew there were snakes.
Mr. Morton, your injuries are pretty severe. Are you left-handed?
I am. Yes, sir.
You already have $65,000 in medical expenses.
It's piling
Tell me
up.
exactly what your injuries are. That's a lot of bills.
Okay, well, whenever we arrived at the hospital,
Yes, sir.
I went inside. I told them I was bit by a rattlesnake. They wasted no time giving me anti-venom.
It was swollen. He could barely breathe.
This is a shot of your hand? Mr. Abernathy, you see that, right?
I see it, Your Honor. I didn't bite him. I didn't stick my hand in a.
You might as well.
That seems a little callous, though, right? I mean, this is a bad injury.
Your Honor, the money that they are asking me for.
That's your arm?
Look here.
The money that they are asking for from me for something that happened on their property will change my entire life. I can't afford this.
I've been told that I may lose my
You
hand.
understand that his entire life has
Look.
changed too, right? I
do.
want you to look at that. That is nasty. That is nasty.
I'm still undergoing surgeries today.
So, Mr. Abernathy, does this rock your heart a little bit? Whether you're responsible or not, this gotta touch you, right?
Sure, I'm sorry you got bit.
I
just
may
don't
lose
know how
my
this is
hand.
my problem.
You're not.
I just don't know how
You
this
don't
is
get the
my
concept.
problem. I sold you a house that's perfectly good, a perfectly good piece of land.
Look, he disclosed to you
Yes,
and
sir.
everyone in this room that there are snakes on our property that
Yes, sir.
he knew about.
And you agree with that, right?
No,
That-
no, Your
not
Honor.
that
I
you
did
knew.
not know that there were snakes on their property, the property that they bought. There are snakes on my property that I still own.
You knew there were snakes. You put my family at risk because you wanted cash. You're a greedy, inconsiderate, dishonest person.
So, Mr.
You're the
Abernathy-
closest
They're
thing to a
acting
snake.
like I took a snake and
You
threw it at me.
destroyed my family, and you need to pay.
Before any of the surgeries, I'm $40,000 in debt.
Anti-venom is expensive.
It sounds like
you
he
you
needs-
see that, right?
Yes, but it sounds like he needs better insurance, Your Honor.
No, whoa.
Wait, hold on for a minute. Hold on for a minute. Where does that come from? He suffered a terrible injury. He could almost lose this hand. Don't you feel a little bit?
Your Honor,
Even if this isn't your fault, don't you say, oh, maybe morally I should have told him?
Your Honor, my eyes are starting to hurt from rolling so much. I mean, this is.
Oh, come on.
You know, your sarcasm makes me smell a snake in the grass.
Exactly.
I'm very sorry
You feel
that
bad?
he stuck his hand in the hole.
There's
Oh,
a
come on.
reason. There's a reason you feel bad, and that's because you knew
knew.
you should have told the truth.
Did.
This court has consulted an expert, Hope Bennett, who's a herpetologist, a snake expert. She's going to tell us a little bit about these rattlesnakes and how they live. So, Sheriff Matt, will you get Miss Bennett? Miss Bennett, come on in. Could you state your name for the record, please?
Hope Bennett.
All right, Miss Bennett, what does a herpetologist do?
They're actually responsible for just knowing more about snakes and how they work and their habitat and where they're found and be able to handle and understand more about snakes.
What are the risks to someone who's been bitten by a snake?
Well, the risk because they're hemotoxin, the venom will actually come from the sac when it bites and goes into the tooth. And they'll bite quickly and let go, but it will shoot that venom into the bloodstream or around, and you'll automatically your blood will stop clotting, and you'll start having tissue necrosis. It will start kind of rotting the tissue.
Mr. Abernathy claimed that the property he sold to the Mortons, he didn't know there were snakes over there. Is that possible? That they stay on one side and don't go to the other?
They're going to be hunting for food, and they're going to go where food is available. And so they're also going to be opportunistic, and if there is that many snakes, they're going to move out and find new territory. Like if construction is happening and you're digging up holes, they're going to take advantage of those holes and look for new sources for food.
Do you believe that Mr. Abernathy would have no idea whether there are snakes on the property he sold to the Mortons?
Unless he did not walk his property at all or did not make his rounds, I can't see how he would not know that there were snakes on his property.
Mr. Abernathy, I was born at night, but not last night. Thank you, Ms. Bennett. I appreciate you. You may be released. So, Mr. Abernathy, this is nasty stuff. Do you see why these folks have sued you?
Your Honor, I'm very sorry that he's going through pain. I'm very sorry they got bit. I'm sorry that they're going through all these things. However, we put the house on a 60-day escrow, which is much longer than normal. He had 60 days to look at the property. They had a home inspector come through, didn't see any snakes.
The house was perfect.
The house
is perfect.
They had a land surveyor come out and no snakes.
To mark our property line. He's not looking
So
for
they had
snakes.
people walking this property on their behalf and no snakes.
And I show you the document that they signed because they purchased this house as is, where is.
Okay,
Which
Sheriff
means
Matt, if you'll look at this.
it is now up to them.
As is, where is.
Yes, Your Honor.
You all signed a sales contract, right, to buy this house like everybody does when they buy a house.
Yes, sir.
The sales contract reads, the property is being sold, quote, as is, where is, which has legal significance I'm going to tell you about, end of quote. Such conditions include with all faults, end quotes, as of the offering, contract date, and as of closing. You all see that, and that's your signature on that document, Mr. Morton?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, y'all had this contract. You had an opportunity to read it, right?
We did.
Now, let me give you a legal lesson. Anytime you buy something as is, it is buyer beware. That is, you buy it in its current condition and you take into account everything that's there, known and unknown.
But I truly believe that he knew, and he chose not to tell us about the snakes.
There's no way that if he knew there were 3 large snake dens on his property, that he didn't at least suspect that there were snakes on the property.
I understand that,
purchased.
Mr. Morton. I do. Mr. Abernathy, you got snake dens on the property you kept. You understand you're under oath today, right?
Yes, Your Honor.
I want to give you one last chance to shoot straight with me. Did you know there were snakes on the property you sold these people?
Your Honor, I did not know that there were snakes on that property that they now own.
Sir, I don't say this often, but I think you're a liar.
Thank you, Your Honor. We deserve compensation. I may not heal from you.
Your Honor, I'm
Folks,
sorry
I've heard
for that.
enough, and I'm ready to render my decision. In every personal injury case, the plaintiff, you all have to prove that the defendant, Mr. Abernathy, did something wrong and that his wrong caused the harm to you.
Yes, sir.
Here, you all have proven that you didn't know snakes were on your property and you were bitten and suffered a terrible, terrible injury.
Yes, Your Honor.
You all been through a terrible ordeal. Frightened your little girl, changed your life, changed you as a daddy, a husband, a family. And my heart goes out to you. Here, you all have proven that Mr. Abernathy knew that there were snakes on his property and should have told you about the snakes on his property so that you would anticipate there being snakes on your property.
Yes.
You have shown $65,000 in medical expenses, terrible injury.
That's minimum.
You all want him also to remove the snakes from your property. You currently have dens on your property, right?
Yes, sir.
Your Honor.
Now, Mr. Abernathy, you believe that you didn't see snakes on the parcel that you sold them? You knew there were snakes on your part, but you never saw them on their part. They had people walking around there that could have told them. And had you seen snakes on their property, you would have told them about it, right?
That's right, Your Honor.
But you don't believe that this is your fault. Mr. Abernathy, throughout this case, I've taken note of your approach to your responsibility. I find that you are morally responsible. You should have told them. I find you're ethically responsible. That's just the right thing to do. I also find that you're personally responsible as a man selling something to someone else. However, the Mortons have not proven that you misrepresented anything and you sold this property as is, where is, and that legal term in your contract means something, and it means I must find in your favor, despite how much it pains me, and against you. That is my final verdict, and this matter is adjourned. Our attorneys across America just viewed this case for the first time. Let's hear what Andrew Finkelstein has to say.
The video of the snakes in their den is what nightmares are made of. From what I saw, for this couple, that nightmare was real. But just because the harm is horrific and frightening, the plaintiffs still had to prove the defendant's negligence caused the injury. Since they bought the property as is, it was their responsibility to fully investigate the property and find the snakes for themselves.